Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this afternoon in the middle of July as we get set up for, of course, what will be a slower week in Edmonton Oilers country unless, well, by chance we get a signing of both Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, or one or the other, or however it all breaks down over the course of the next 7 days here in Alberta. That said, friends, there is one thing I want to talk about today on a Sunday afternoon when we have a little bit of time to talk, and we'll get to that in a matter of moments. But if you're new to the channel right now, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button here on the channel simply because, hey, it's the off season. We have plenty of time to get everybody up and ready to go for what should be a special season once again in Edmonton this year, upcoming 24-25. So, what am I talking about when it comes to something to discuss? Well, I think it's something I brought up either this week or the week before, where it really seems like the one thing we haven't discussed all summer, because nobody has made it news per se, none of the insiders have talked about it, none of that, is the Oilers' decision to run back with Stuart Skinner and Cal Picard. And of course, I think there's a lot of credit to those two guys for the first time in forever stabilizing the Edmonton Oilers crease, where the Oilers don't feel there is work to be done or room to improve in the Edmonton Oilers goaltending department. Now, that said, there's always room to improve and there's always opportunities to get better. And that's where I want to steer the discussion right now here today, is just kind of taking a look at, well, if the goaltending doesn't need to improve right here, right now, we know that Cody Ceci is going to be traded at some point, or so it seems. And other than that, the Oilers are pretty comfortable with their roster they have assembled here over the first 2 weeks of July. So, while we look at that, and of course additioning in Broberg and Holloway at some point this offseason, you look at it, goaltending is the only thing I think unanimously everyone could say, well, I'd love for that to be even better, right? It's not that it's bad, but oh man, couldn't it be better? Absolutely it could, given the fact that you had a stellar career year from Calvin Picard, so you're looking for him to repeat that success in his 30s. Is that possible? I think yes. But is that sustainable long-term through an 82-game season and then into the playoffs when you need him most? I don't know. So that is where I'm looking at. Maybe the one move that nobody's talking about yet because it's so far away at this current moment is the fact that when it comes to the 2025 NHL Trade Deadline, the Oilers' biggest move of all, the Oilers' biggest move in that department in a long while may indeed be a trade deadline acquisition for an NHL goaltender, right? That's something we've asked for the past couple trade deadlines, but this year it very well may actually happen. When you look at how the rest of the roster is constructed, how the rest of the roster is taking shape, is everything else looks pretty solid, everything else looks pretty good. But now all of a sudden the only department that could possibly be better on this organization's depth charts is the goaltending, and whether that be just somebody, right? I know we got Colin Delia now, but just somebody behind Picard and Skinner, or somebody ahead of Picard, behind Skinner, whatever the case might be. That would be the only possible move I think any of us would really love to see the Oilers go plus on, right? Is when you're talking about sending away assets for a player in instead of sending a player away for assets. It would be an extra goaltender in that mix somehow, some way. And it's not to blame Stuart Skinner. I think he was pretty solid in the playoffs all told when he needed him most. And I think Calvin Picard was pretty solid when he needed him most too this year, multiple times through. It's just, when it comes to good goaltending, you can never have enough of it, right? That's I think, the simplest argument to be made there is, the better your goaltending, the better off you are, even if your team's already great. So that's where I'm hoping for the Oilers. This is at long last the trade deadline upcoming next year, that we are talking about acquiring and actually do acquire an NHL caliber goaltender that can do some needle moving late in the season or in the playoffs, because you know how important goaltending is going to be this year for the Oilers early on, midway through, late in the year to get Stu Skinner some rest, and then of course in the playoffs as well. And that's where the reason that is because of how late you played this year, right? I mean, Stu played a heck of a lot of games, especially by the end of the season in the playoffs. but you got to get him some rest early on. So you'd expect to see Cal Picard get some more starts, especially if he's keeping the caliber of goaltending you were getting throughout last season. And then at that point, right, Cal's now been on a long run. Stu's been on a long run. Do you want to bring someone in midway through next year, sometime around the trade deadline, just in case things get hairy at or around the playoff time? And of course, what of injuries and all that. So I think the goaltending is the only possible position I'm really looking to upgrade on at the trade deadline. That is if Philip Broberg does not project out and become the defenseman that he appeared to be in the last 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. So I think we've got a whole bunch of fun to look forward to here, and it's the least talked about topic. But again, I think it's because when it comes down to making a move for the goaltending, it will come down to the 2025 NHL Trade Deadline. But it's nice to dream of the one day when we got pretty much nothing going on here in the middle of summer now. A cooler, calmer, cloudier day in southern Alberta today as the Calgary Stampede wraps up for yet another year. And with that, the back half of summer officially begins in Alberta, friends. Look forward to carrying you through it here the rest of the way, as we've got less than 50 days to go until September 1st and the start of the real coverage of the 24-25 NHL season here on Dolynny TV. Of course, once again, I'll tell you, hit that subscribe button on your way out if you're new, and we will catch you in the next one.